you don't have to change who you are to fit into any social circle or to, claim space in an otherwise unavailable area for you. You have the right to feel seen and to feel valued and to be accepted. Today, I want to dive into a topic that a lot of us have wrestled with, and that is the feeling of belonging. Now, I know that this is something that all women struggle with, but for today, I really want to talk to my fellow Chicanas, my Latina sisters, all the women of color that are in our community, because we have an added layer of struggle when it comes to feeling like we belong in certain spaces and feeling like we may not be welcome in every room or have a seat at every table. And I wanted to share with you one of the standout memories that really kind of made me question my sense of belongingness. But before I get into that, I want to say that I know that the microphone is better for sound quality, and I hope that it really is for you. But it just reminds me of what Ryan Gosling said in the movie Crazy Stupid Love. It looks like I'm holding a tiny schwanz. And that's what I always feel like. So anyway, I get distracted. So welcome back to another episode of Cafecito y Chisme. This is the more laid back series where we just kind of talk about things that I've experienced in my life and little nuggets I've learned along the way. It's more casual. It's not really as structured as some of my other Truthatude videos, but you guys seem to be liking this series. So I'm going to continue to do it here and there in between my regular Truthatude videos. For the beverage of the day, I'm actually not drinking cafecito. I'm drinking peppermint tea because I have some things I gotta do today and it's freezing outside, and so I needed a warm bev. So this idea of belongingness, whether you're stepping into a new job, you're feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome, or you're entering a new space that you've never been to, you're attending an event that's new to you, we've all kind of had this feeling like, I don't know if I belong here. And I can absolutely relate to that. So I want to share with you a story that a while ago I had a kind of high profile job. I worked for the state and I got to attend all kinds of amazing events, things that I wouldn't probably have access to if it weren't for this job and the public nature of this job. So I had to represent the state that I was living in, and it came with a lot of perks, but there were also a lot of drawbacks. And one of the perks was I got to attend the World Rowing Championship, and it was amazing. And I was surrounded by Olympic athletes and the mucky mucks of society. And it was really one of the first opportunities that I had to kind of rub elbows with the elite society. And I felt kind of out of place. No, I felt very out of place. There was a point where I was there to represent the governor, and, that comes with a certain weight, attached to it. And I definitely used that card to my advantage when it was necessary, but I really felt it was important to stand on my own. And so when I would go to these networking events, I really didn't have a problem feeling like I could assert myself and kind of play along with the dynamics of the room. But for some reason, when I went to the World Rowing Championship and I was surrounded by all these high society folks and really old money, we're talking legacy money, I felt so out of place. And me and my colleague, we were both Latinas, we kind of had a side conversation about how out of place we felt. And that was exacerbated by the fact that these were Olympian rowers and government officials, and these athletes were 6.5 feet tall or more. So that added to the element of man, I really feel like a small person. And I felt small physically, but I also felt small, I didn't belong in this room. And honestly, I kind of felt like I was just the little Maria that stood out like a sore thumb. And I was getting some side eyes, and it was harder for me to engage in conversations until a colleague of mine, who was, a pale, stale white male, was able to introduce me and say, oh, you should pay attention to her because she's with the state, and almost created an entry point for me because I couldn't access it myself. And I know that my other sisters of color have felt that before. I know that my Latina sisters, my other sisters of color, like, we have had to have a white advocate kind of introduce us into places that we weren't normally welcome. And that was definitely one of those moments. And when he said that I represented the governor, that was when they were like, oh, okay, we can talk to her because she's important enough for us to talk to. And it only exacerbated the feeling of being out of place and like I didn't belong there. And I really had to do some inner work on myself after that moment. I was like, no, I need to build a sense of strength in my identity and in myself and assert myself in these places where I'm being made to feel unwelcome, whether that's deliberately or subconsciously. I need to take up space. And I bring all this up to say that it is very common for women to feel like we don't belong or that we don't have a seat at the table. And I know that there are some people who take it to the extreme and they feel like they have to yell at the top of their lungs to be heard, which absolutely is the case in some instances, but there are ways that you can kind of claim your space. And I wanted to dive into that today. So after that moment, I kind of realized that the only person telling me that I didn't belong in that space was me. Nobody verbally said I wasn't welcome there. Yes, I did get a few weird eyes, but I don't know what that was about. That was just me making the assumption. And so I realized that if I had another opportunity like that to be in a place where I wouldn't have normal access to, or be in a place that was out of my comfort zone, I had the opportunity. I could make a choice and shrink back and be small, or I could push myself and stand up and assert myself and claim that space and say, no, I do belong here. I deserve to be here, and really assert my presence in that moment. And that's what I decided to do moving forward. And that took practice, right? There are still places where I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I belong here. But I started to do that by exposing myself to new opportunities, trying new things, placing myself in new groups of people and in new social circles. And it took practice, but now I can easily walk into a room and be like, yeah, I deserve to be here. I belong here. Here's the thing. Our desire to belong is completely natural. Now, I know that there are some schools of thought on the internet that say you should be independent, you should be a lone wolf, you should be out there and not care what anybody thinks and like go do your own thing. And that can be true in a lot of instances. However, we are meant to connect to other people. We are not meant to exist in a vacuum. And so that feeling that you have, that deep desire to belong, is totally natural, and we should not demonize that sensation in ourselves or in other people. It is absolutely normal to want to find your community, to find a space that you belong to, and to build connection with others. We are wired to crave connection, to crave acceptance, to crave belongingness. And I think for so many women out there, we internalize this message that in order to be accepted or to belong in a certain place in life or certain circles, that we have to mutate or completely change who we are as a person in order to feel some level of acceptance. And that notion is asserted over and over and over again, especially in social media and like the online world, but you really don't have to change who you are at the core to belong in spaces that will accept you. It just takes a little bit of legwork to find those places that you do belong. So I want to say something to you loud and clear. If you don't get anything out of this video other than this, it is, you belong in every room that you enter, whether that's a corporate meeting, a fitness class, a fancy party, or a social group. You deserve a seat at every table, and I want you to take this home. Nowhere is off limits to you. So how do we get to that feeling? How do we get to that place where we can assert ourselves in every situation that we enter? Stand tall. Literally, good posture. That is the key to looking confident, even if you don't necessarily feel it inside. And shifting your inner dialogue, instead of saying, I don't belong here, you say, I'm meant to be here. This opportunity presented itself for a reason. And engaging with others, don't be afraid to talk to other people, because just like you may be feeling a little cautious or a little shy, like others probably are feeling that same way too. And that deep desire for connection exists in everybody. And I promise you that there's another person in that room that probably feels just as unsure about being there as you do. And what better way to build a bridge than to be that person who takes initiative and makes somebody else feel welcome? That is another way that you can claim that space as your own, is to make somebody else feel welcome. One of the most important things that I learned about developing a sense of belongingness and claiming spaces that previously weren't meant for me was to expose myself to new places. And I did this by driving to the rich part of town and looking at all the houses and being like, that's available to me. Or taking myself out to nice restaurants that, I thought I maybe couldn't afford, or I had to wait for somebody to take me on a date to. Now, I'm not saying that all of this is about putting yourself in rich or affluent spaces, but I know for many of us who grew up in poverty, it's hard for us to kind of break that economic glass ceiling and to feel like we don't belong in spaces where people have money, right? And so that's just one area of belonging. There's a lot of others, right? Like I felt really uncomfortable in girls' social circles, right? I felt like, oh no, I just get along better with guys. But I actually broke that when I joined my sorority, and I felt like, wow, this connection to other women is unique and special and something that I couldn't get from my male friendships. And so that was another social circle where I didn't feel like I had previous access to, but by exposing myself to it, I really gained a rich community that I am so grateful for. And so exposing yourself to places where you don't feel like you necessarily belong or that you don't have access to is the absolute best way to start claiming different spaces that you previously didn't feel like you could belong. And for me, it was, like I said, going to expensive areas of town or traveling to different places or attending different cultural events that I felt were like off limits because that wasn't my culture, right? And just going to different things and exposing myself to different experiences. And it really taught me a lot that like I can belong to any place that I go to. I have access to anything that's available to me, and I deserve to be in any room that I enter. Trying new hobbies, that was another thing I did. After the World Rowing Championship, I joined a rowing crew. And I tried it out and I liked it. And I really pushed myself to do something completely different. And, trying different hobbies, activities, taking classes of things that you never thought about are ways to increase your access and increase the availability of things for your sense of belongingness. So before I kind of wrap this up, I want to just reiterate the fact that you deserve to be in every space that you enter. And your desire for belongingness, your desire for acceptance is completely natural, and it's your birthright. You deserve to feel welcome and accepted anywhere that you go. That's not to say that you won't encounter challenges with that. Yes, there will be places that you enter and people will deliberately make you feel unwelcome. And that's just part of life. But that doesn't mean that you don't deserve to be there. Especially for my women of color, where we are made to feel like the other time and time and time again. And I recognize that I'm light skinned, so I have access to places that my other sisters of color may not. I do have the privilege of passing, and I fully acknowledge that. But I have encountered places where people made me feel like I didn't belong. And I've struggled with my sense of belongingness my whole life, and there are still times when I do. But I want you to know that you don't have to change who you are to fit into any social circle or to, claim space in an otherwise unavailable area for you. You deserve to be wherever you are, and I hope that you find some encouragement in taking up space. You have the right to feel seen and to feel valued and to be accepted and to be celebrated. So the next time that you feel like I don't belong here, I want you to take a deep breath, stand a little bit taller, and say, I am meant to be here. So I'm dying to know, have you ever been in a situation where you felt out of place and you were able to overcome that feeling and claim that space. Or I would love to know, what are you going to challenge yourself with this year? Where are you going to enter a room and take up space that was previously unavailable to you? How are you going to foster your sense of acceptance and belongingness this year? Before you go, I just want to offer an opportunity for you. If you are struggling with your sense of belonging, or you feel like you're not accepted anywhere, then I want to invite you to join our community. And you can do that by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, but also I am creating a membership that will be an opportunity for you to make friends and to see like-minded women lifting each other up in a supportive way, and an opportunity to work with me directly. So I will be opening that membership later this year. So if you want first dibs on the information, definitely join the wait list. You can leave your email below, and I hope to see you there, and you are always welcome. This is our little tribe here, and I hope that you feel supported and that you feel welcome. So that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoy this little series, Cafecito y Chisme, and definitely tune in next week because I will be talking about my whole year of being single on purpose. So it's a juicy episode. You don't want to miss it. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.